Okay, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I've tried to film this intro many times, and I keep framing myself stupidly, or one time I did not click the record button, so this is third or maybe fourth time's the charm, but I swear to God I'm gonna get it right this time, and it's gonna be zip zap zop. It's gonna be so speedy and so perfect. Okay, hello and welcome to another TBR video. Last time we saw each other, it was the beginning of July, and I was filming another one of these. I'm going to quickly give you a summary of how July went, my thoughts on the TBR jar. Obviously, I like it enough that I'm going to do it again with a few slight edits, and basically run back what happened in July very briefly, and then move forward into the next TBR jar installment. Some context is I make a TBR of 6 books by pulling prompts from 2 different jars of varying degrees of prompt difficulty to complete, and that is not a list of books that I have to read or complete in the month. It's more of just like a menu that I can choose from if I'm struggling to decide what book to read next. Whether I read 1 or all 6 books, it's not that deep. Just to give you an overview of July, I think this worked extremely well. I love science, love a hypothesis, love when a hypothesis is true. My thinking was when I make TBRs usually, I tend to feel really trapped, and then picking up any one of the books feels kind of like homework, like, oh, I have to do it, I have to read all of them. What's the point of reading this one? I'm definitely not going to finish all 6. And it just kind of like snowballs, and I end up reading none of it a lot of the time. But because here I had no expectations of myself to read all 6, I just feel like it went really well and functioned exactly how I wanted it to, where every time I wasn't sure what to read, I just like looked at the stack of books next to my bed that I had pulled from the month before and just chose one of those. And I read some books that weren't on this list, and I read some of the books that were. And I think it just like functioned really perfectly, and I'm very happy with it. So that's why I'm back here. The one change I'm going to make is instead of doing this per month, I think I'm going to do it on a bi-monthly basis. So this TBR I'm going to make for August and September, because there was a couple of books on the list that I wanted to get to or wanted to finish, and I just didn't have time for it. Realistically, I read about 3 to 4 books per month, and I want to try to give myself enough time that if I'm really enjoying all of the books on the TBR, I have time to read all of them if I want to, but I also have time to read other books, or if I don't want to read all of these, that's okay too. So I'm thinking my next list is going to be August and September. With that whole preamble out of the way, let's quickly go through the books that I did end up getting to in July from the TBR, and I'll give a quick 1-sentence summary. I'm going to go into more detail on these, probably in a video at the end of the summer where I talk about all the books I read over the summer, but very briefly, here we go. The first book that I read from the TBR in July was My Year of Meats by Ruth Ozeki, and I loved this book. I cannot wait to read more from her. She's incredible, a legend, an icon, 5 amazing perfect stars. Okay, the second book that I read from the TBR was Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This one was like a 3.5 stars. I really, really liked it, but the series is really long and the books keep getting longer and longer. And honestly, I don't feel like Dungeon Crawler Carl had enough of a plot or like cliffhanger for me to want to like really, really keep pushing forward. So I would say enjoyable experience, but I'm not necessarily looking to continue the series, but glad I read it nonetheless. The third book I want to talk about is The Employees by Olga Ravin. This one I started, but like I mentioned in the previous video, this is like little kind of like fiction vignettes a little bit that all come together to describe the dynamic of this like spaceship with humans and humanoid creatures. I guess this is just a book that I like more in theory than in practice, and I found myself just picking it up and putting it down and not really like getting stuck into it the way that I really wanted to, you know? So a little bit disappointing there, but I'm not saying I'm DNFing it forever. It's just like not the book that I want right now, or I want to feel like I really enter that flow state when I'm reading. And finally, the last book from the TBR last month that I got to in some capacity was Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. This one I'm in the middle of. I have like a third of it left, and I'm loving it so much. I don't want to say too much because the ending of a book can really make or break it, but holy hell, it's so good, and I am so glad that I'm reading it. With that, I think all that's left to do is actually jump into the TBR jar portion of the video, which is pulling 6 prompts for August and September. Quick reminder, I'm going to pull 4 from the easy jar and 2 from the hard jar. That way, I get like a good mix of types of prompts, and I'll get 2 months now instead of 1 month to like pick and choose whichever ones I want to read, remembering it's more of a menu of books than it is like a prescriptive list of I have to read all 6 of these. It worked so well last time. I'm very excited to see what happens this time. Here we go. Prompt number 1. Ooh. All right. I got judge book by its cover. That basically means choose a book whose cover I think is pretty. Boy, do I have options for this. For this one, I'm actually going to choose the book that I bought most recently, and that is The Fact Checker by Austin Kelly. This one was definitely mostly a cover buy. I thought it was so pretty, and basically it's about this guy who works as a fact checker for The New Yorker, but some weird stuff kind of happens, and somebody he has to go to talk to fact check for an article ends up mysteriously disappearing, and now he's trying to find her, and it just seemed really cool. I bought this at the Green Apple Books in San Francisco. Shout out Green Apple Books, great bookstore. I'm very interested to read this, but I'm also very excited to look at it because I think this is such a beautiful cover. Amazing! That's 1 down, 5 to go. Pull number 2. All right, up next I got purple cover. Whoa. The great thing about organizing your shelves by color is this is a very easy prompt to fulfill. The bad thing is that none of my books in my purple area are really sparking a ton of joy right now. And that's okay. Yeah. For this one, I'm going to go with Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, translated by Anton Her. This is a short story collection translated from Korean. It was shortlisted for the 2022 International Booker Prize, and let's be so honest, I bought it because I thought that the cover was beautiful, and I still do. That being said, short story collections I always like more in theory than I do in practice, and since buying it, I've heard kind of mixed things about this guy. I do think I want to give it a shot. I haven't even tried reading it, and I bought it like 3 years ago, and I do genuinely love this cover, and she is very purple. None can deny that. Okay, pull number 3. Here we go. Yellow. All right, we got another color-based one. This is orange cover. Orange. Yeah, I know what I want for this. This one, I'm going to pick Photoshop Murder by Kim Yong-ha. This guy is this tiny little novella that I bought when I was in Korea in 2022. I went to this bookstore that had like hundreds of these that were all in the same edition with like 2 colors on the cover, 1 color that was like this text art design, and then 1 color that was like the general cover color. And they were all these like Korean novellas that I'd never heard of before. And I'm very excited to read. I think I bought 2 or 3 from the store. They're all here somewhere, but I've never read any of them. This one is more vibes than plot, I think, which sounds cool in like a novella sense, but I'm curious to see what that actually pans out to. Let me just read you 1 sentence from the blurb and you'll get the vibe of what this is about. Kinky photos and worn-out marriages, half-shaved faces, and ambitious plans to save toilet paper at the office. It all combines to create a gritty urban landscape so unbelievable it must be real. Photoshop Murder. No real idea what it's about. The blurb gives us very little, but she is orange and I do really want to read it. Okay, with that, it's time for pull 4. The sun is setting as we work. I'm a little bit nervous. Let's try to go quickly. Hopefully not a color-based one. By the way, the colors of the sheets, meaningless. Just vibes. Hey, this is fun. This one just says, book that sparks joy. I love that. That just means a book that I feel like reading. Wow. Do you know what I'm going to pick for this? I am going to choose, oh, this guy got lost. I'm going to choose The Bradshaw Variations by Rachel Cusk. And the reason for this is that I read the first 10 pages of this book and I really liked it in the bookstore before I decided to buy it. Rachel Cusk is an author. I've read one book by her before. It was Coventry, which is her essay collection. And I really love the style of her covers. They kind of all go together. And I really liked the little bit of this book that I read. And I think I want to read it in August or September. So I'm adding it to my list. Description. Thomas Bradshaw and Toni Swan are experiencing the classic symptoms of marriage in its middle years. Comfortable house, happy enough daughter, and an eerie sense that life might be happening elsewhere. Then, Toni accepts a big promotion at work and Thomas agrees to become a stay-at-home dad. While Thomas is suddenly faced with the daily silence of an empty house, Toni finds herself alive to previously unimagined possibilities. The Bradshaw Variations is a classic novel of a family in crisis from the visionary Rachel Cusk. Huge, love it. Very excited to add this to my TBR because I do want to read it based on what I've already read, which is very little. That brings us to the hard prompt section. Let's do a little swapperoo. Good old classic swapperoony. And let's start shuffling. Oh, these are harder to shuffle. Okay. I'm gonna pull this guy. I'm getting older. It's hard to read dark ink on dark paper. Okay, this is book club book. Any club. What does that mean? Is I'm going to look for some book club that's happening in the month of August, I guess, or September, and I read the book from that. That could be anything from a Reese's book club pick to I have some friends and we sometimes do book clubs together, anything like that. So please hold while I leave and come back. I will be back shortly. Night has fallen once again, but I have chosen the book that I'm going to read. I'm actually picking a book from a July book club just because when I'm filming this, it's not yet August, and a lot of book club release things I'm finding don't really release the August books until later. And so July is the closest I can get, and I'm okay with that. And I'm actually going to read the book Free by Leah Yupi. I don't really know how to pronounce that name. This was the July monthly read from Dua Lipa's book club service, Service 95. I don't exactly know how this works. What I do know is that every month she interviews a different author of some book and has this really in-depth, really beautiful, well interviewed, well researched conversation with an author, and I've watched a couple of them before and really liked them, and I'm excited to try to get to read this and watch that interview with the author, and they always go into spoilers and stuff, so sometimes you can't really watch the interview until you've read the book. I'm hoping to get to do that and enjoy that. Obviously don't have the book physically, but that is mentally being added to my TBR. This follows the author when she was 11, living in Albania, I think in the time of communism. I don't know exactly what the big turning points of the memoir, political, historical fiction, nonfiction book are, but I will hopefully read it and find out. It takes place in Albania. I've never read a book that takes place in Albania or by an Albanian author, I think. And I know Dua Lipa is Albanian, so I think this is kind of cool. I guess we'll see what comes of that. That is draw number 5. Never would have expected that. With that, we come to our final draw of this video. Let's see what we get. Back in here. Yeah, why not this guy? Okay, this is a National Book Critics Circle Award finalist, and then it says RNG a year. So what that means is I have to randomly generate a year where the National Book Critics Circle Award existed, and then from the finalists, pick one to be the one that I read. Let us see what I can do with this. This guy I gotta do a little bit of research on as well. I'll circle back. Okay, well, I randomly generated a date between 1975 and 2026, and I got 2001. And when I looked at the National Book Critics Circle Award finalists for that year, there was a couple that kind of potentially jumped out at me. However, the one that I think is calling to me the most is Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. Ann Patchett is an author whose books I've read before. I've only read, actually, Tom Lake, which I really liked, and this one is obviously very different. She wrote it 25 years ago, but I guess it follows it's a fiction story, but it's loosely based on real life events, where in Peru, a group of people at like some political event basically get held hostage by a bunch of gun-wielding terrorists and are held hostage for like months, and basically like the Stockholm syndrome-esque like bonds and relationships and dynamics and all these like things that happen over the course of the period of time where they're held hostage. And that sounds very cool and interesting. The one thing that I'm a little bit hesitant about is that I've seen a couple of reviews that kind of talk about the fact that like the whole thing is set in Peru and is about this like really important piece of Peruvian history, but most of the book is about like opera and about like Italy, I guess, which hence where like the title Bel Canto comes from. And so there's like some discourse about the potential that the book just uses like a convenient real life event as like a way to talk about this thing she wants to talk about, but they wish it had been more about the history of that place itself. And I do think that's like the kind of sensitivity and foresight that comes from writing books more in today's day. That being said, that doesn't preclude it from being a really good book, and so I'm excited to check it out and see what it looks like. I never would have thought that was going to be on my list for this month. This is quite a crazy combo of books we've got here. I guess August and September, we're going to see what I end up pulling from. I'm very curious to see what happens. But that is my stack for the next 2 months. Let me hold it up. Whoa, I can do it with one hand. I'm so strong. These are the 4 that I have physically, and then I've also got 2 more that I'll either get from the library on Libby or physically. And I will check back in with you at the end of September to talk about, I guess at the beginning of October, in the next TBR Jar installment, to talk about which of these books I actually ended up picking up. Remember, I don't need to pick up all of them. I don't even need to pick up one of them if I don't want to. This is all vibes based. We'll see. There are definitely some of these that I'm really excited about and some that I'm less so, but that happened last month too, actually, and I still ended up picking up some of the ones that I didn't think I was going to end up reading and really loving them. So, time will tell. I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, that's all I had to say today. I'm going to put these down. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I will see you again sooner than 2 months from now. The next video I make will not be the next TBR video, God willing. But thank you for coming along with me on the journey. I hope you had a good time, and I will see you next time. Bye.